Hello ladies and gentlemen, Teo here, back with some more DC Day. As I mentioned last time, this is where part of the game splits up. If we choose Kasumi here, then we move on to either Kasumi or Sakurai's route, and if we drag Sakurai away, we move on to Mary's route. So we are doing Kasumi's route first, so we will be loading this save back up in 20 or 30 hours or so, possibly more. But for now, we will be dragging Kasumi away. Wait, that's not the one I meant to press. How do I load files? Send help? Okay, no one saw that. I grabbed Kasumi by the wrist and forcefully dragged her away, ignoring Sakurai's sarcasm-laden sigh in the background. For the time being, I couldn't let them be around each other. I realized that I'd been unconsciously gripping Kasumi's arm without any restraint. Kendo champion or not, she was still a woman. I couldn't be rough to her. I couldn't tell if the cause was yesterday's training or the fact that both Sakurai and I were alike in the way, but the craving I barely felt around her came back in full force the minute Kasumi showed up. That is a wild misconstruction of their conversation. It's only the last bit. That made me heave a mental sigh of relief. Before she could break into any sort of argument, I lifted a hand to silence her. And with that, I hastily passed through the gate. And you are sending all sorts of exciting mixed signals here. I knew how much it pained Kasumi to be left out of the loop. What else was I supposed to do? I took this dangerous power from her, along with all those painful memories, because I wanted her to lead a peaceful life as an everyday high school student. My top priority right now is to master formation as soon as possible. Sakurai's aloof evasiveness aside, it was clear as day that I'd have about a snowball's chance in hell to fend off Rusalka and Wilhelm otherwise. And so, the school day drew to a close. Today was only a half-day due to it being Saturday. I skipped all my classes and sat around on the roof, pondering what to do next. As the school was an electrical ground, it would probably be best for me to stay here as much as possible. Hell, maybe I'd even go as far as spending the night here. I figured today might very well be the day I did that. I had stuff to take care of anyway. I closed my eyes and focused, trying to practice what I did in the classroom the other night, activating my Ananerb. I'd repeated the process hundreds and hundreds of times since early morning. My eyes slowly fluttered open. I'd been at it for over 5 hours now, but I still couldn't control it all that well. My power was omnidirectional, which meant that unless I had a firm grasp on the reins, I'd never be free from the risk of recklessly slicing up a friend and foe alike. In all honesty, this hardly felt like a power suited for protecting others. The way it was prone to indiscriminately harming everything and everyone in its vicinity made it seem more like a wild animal gone berserk. I took a deep breath and reached out with my right hand, focusing on everything from my shoulder to my fingertips and even beyond that, picturing something flying out of it. That something was the blade of a guillotine. Having experienced numerous decapitations in that dreamscape ever since I'd been discharged from the hospital, its sheer prowess had long since seeped into the very crevices of my being. As such, I could replicate its sharpness with relative ease. The problem, as I'd previously implied, lay in controlling it. On that front, Kasumi did a better job than me. Back then, I viewed her attacks as nothing more than a haphazardly released series of slashes, but forcing this thing to properly hit its target was no trivial feat. I wasn't praising her for such a deed, nor did I want to, but if I was to be honest, being able to aim all her slashes directly at my neck without fail stood testament to a certain level of skill. Hard to tell if it was her kendo experience or single-minded personality to work there, though. At any rate, for a slacker like me, who had yet to put serious effort into anything in life, it felt like a bit of a tough assignment to tackle, as in, it wasn't going well at all. Much like right now. Despite aiming for the empty can sitting lonely on the bench, I ended up slicing up the wire mesh a good 3 meters away from it. I sucked at this big time. More tired than exasperated, I ended up throwing myself spread eagle onto the ground. I had the time neither to slack off nor sulk, but I wasn't going to get anywhere at this rate. I needed a more effective way to train, and I needed it now. If I kept this up, I'd just end up pointlessly destroying school property without any results to show for it. Sakurai claimed this grasping and giving it form was key, which made me consider sketching it down, but I felt that to be kinda off the mark. What I likely need is a way to crystallize the aggression within me. What the hell was the logic behind having a guy with a fear of blades materialize a guillotine? Hell, why even me of all people? Take Mary, for example. What exactly was her deal? Judging from the vague memories I had of that dream, I got the feeling she was talking something about fate or predestination. I could say for sure I didn't know any French people, nor had I ever visited the country. I couldn't imagine the two of us having any kind of predestined relationship. There was one thing I knew for a fact. I gently placed a finger on my neck. The makeup I applied to the skin may have concealed it nicely, but Mary's decapitation scar was still definitely there. In life, she must have been executed with a guillotine. She didn't give me the impression of a sinner or a criminal, but then again, the 18th century was the heyday of civil revolutions and witch trials. Plenty of people must have died for crimes they never committed. Then perhaps the true nature of this power came in the form of the grudges and regrets from her past life, which would certainly explain her indiscriminate urge to destroy everything in her path. On the other hand, I couldn't sense the faint hint of malice. From Mary herself. Unnerved devoured souls, growing stronger with each kill. Upon fusing with beings like that, resisting the urge to kill felt the height of stupidity. Sakurai went so far as to call it suicide. In short, unless I supplied it with constant sacrifices, it would eat away at my own soul until I died. So the total stock I had at the moment were the 10 or so people Kasumi had killed. Sure didn't sound like a lot. I was likely going to use them all up the moment fighting broke out for real. With that said, using the souls of innocent people as fuel for my purposes was out of the question. I wouldn't do it. My best bet was to try and beat the first enemy with only my soul. Then I could just absorb and keep using the souls of my defeated enemies afterwards. See, that was what I suggested. Which sounded it actually sounded pretty much nigh impossible. At any rate, the problem was picking a first opponent. According to Sakurai, I was up against 12 others. Considering I'd eventually have to face them all, logic would dictate that I started with the weakest. You do know that you don't live in a video game. I mean, you do live in a video game, but from your perspective, you don't live in a video game. You can just get to work from the weakest to the strongest. Not necessarily the most solid plan in terms of absorbing souls, but nothing good would come of overstepping my bounds either. And who should I aim my sights on? Wilhelm was a powerhouse, Rusalka a complete enigma. As for Sakurai, more than anything she was tough to deal with. Then there was that Spine guy, whom I knew nothing about, seeing how I'd yet to actually meet him. I wonder how strong of an opponent he'd be. Wait, what the hell was I even thinking? I couldn't count my chickens before they had hatched. Taking on someone, let alone defeating them, in my current state? I felt baffled by my own stupidity. Story of my life. In the end, I had to keep my sights locked on what I could accomplish at the moment. I sat down cross-legged, once again focusing my attention on destroying school property. At least the door was locked, so I didn't need to worry about a stray attack mowing down Himuro in case she happened to show up out of the blue. And just like that, 4.5 hours passed. Wait, he's been doing this for 9 hours now? Good God. I've been relentlessly practicing until sunset, but I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. Maybe I just lacked the necessary talent. I didn't particularly lament not having a talent for murder, but that in itself was little consolation given my current situation. I felt genuinely frustrated. If I was going to spend the night at school, I first needed to make the necessary preparations. Like food, to name just one. I stood up and left the roof, with no progress to show for my efforts, save for the fact that the urges within me appeared to recede a bit. No doubt because I spent half the day slicing things up. So even if I left school, I doubted I would attack civilians out of nowhere. That, if nothing else, made continuing on with this pathetic training regimen worth it. And yet... Kasumi, why was she here? Studying.
別にあんたが不真面目なのは今に始まったことじゃないけどさ。ここ何日かおかしすぎるよ。私に言えないようなことなの？
That's... I couldn't tell her, no matter what. I could never allow her to remember that incident, and I wasn't going to let her get involved with my current predicament either. In which case...
ちょっとダメよ！逃がさないからね！
Kasumi grabbed hold of my arm to stop me as I tried to turn around. However, she let go of me in surprise like she just touched red-hot coals. Could she have noticed something? My chest ached from the look she gave me, one of bafflement mixed with a twinge of trepidation. I had to lie to her.
風邪気味だから、あんまり寄らない方がいいと思うぞ。
そうなの。
ああ。
What was I supposed to do about her, though? Quite frankly, I couldn't afford to focus on this right now. She was clearly not the type to back down due to being continuously ignored. If anything, it might have been more dangerous to let her wander around aimlessly with no sense of the impending danger. In which case, I needed something, anything, that would make her back off without revealing a truth. Something that would convince her... Is there anything that would get through to her?
ねえレン、私は役に立てないのかな。
She said the same thing that night.
男ってさ、あんまり干渉されたがらないっていうか、そういうところがあるの本とかで知ってるけど、私は嫌だな。なんかこう、いてもいなくても関係ないみたいな、つまんない気持ちになっちゃうよ。
This was a bit of an awkward dilemma. I mean, even I knew girls had a part like that to them. And Kasumi was a girl, too.
でもほら、私体育会系じゃない？説明してくれれば割とあっさり納得しちゃうかもしれないよ。こんな風によくわからないまま避けられるのは見えなくて変な感じ。だから
She must have felt irritated by my constant lack of answers and tried her best to recklessly struggle due to not seeing the whole picture. In a way, those feelings of hers, albeit on a different scale, resembled the way I felt about Sakurai. I understood that and knew I couldn't just shrug this off. Hell, considering Kasumi's honest, clear-cut personality, the problem was likely more pronounced in her case.
私にできることはない？空気読んでないのはわかるけど、やっぱりこんなんじゃ寂しいよ。
Kasumi's words made the event of that fateful night drift back to the forefront of my mind. Those very same feelings of hers ended up causing her all that pain. I needed to deal with this in a clever way to make sure she would never go through a nightmare like that again. If I couldn't tell her the truth, the least I could do was fabricate a convincing enough lie. An obvious lie, or continued attempts at ignoring her, to the point of looking unnatural, would be like telling her to pry further, ultimately achieving the opposite effect. I needed to think. Was there nothing else I could use? I couldn't delay this issue. I had to get it over with right away. So what would make her stop needlessly worrying about me while also keeping her away?
Ren?
Momentarily averting my eyes from the suspicious Kasumi, I took a great, deep breath. By the time I looked her in the eye again, my lips had curled into a wry smile.
誰にも言うなよ。
Would this really work?
俺、桜井と付き合ってるんだ。
You're an idiot. I mean, this more or less accomplishes most of your goals, but it is going to make explaining this whole mess afterwards even more complicated. Good God. Is there nothing better you could have come up with? Like, I feel like in my case, or in my opinion rather, the best strategy is to touch on the issue while leaving it in as vague as terms as possible. Like saying, I am currently involved in a complicated situation that requires strict confidentiality. And as a result, you're not going to see very much of me for the next month. Like, that's both vague enough that you don't tell her that you're fighting Nazis with magic swords, but also, like, gets the main points across, while also not, like, being pants on fire, blatantly lying. Like, this lie does not hold up to scrutiny. That's one problem, and that's only one of the problems.
だから、お前と一緒にいるのはあんまり良くない。
I mean, I give him props for coming up with a simple lie that, like, gives the right, like, or will, like, cause Kasumi to act in the ways that he wants her to, but, like, come on, dude. That's fucked up.
ちょっと待ってよ。
Not the most pleasant thing I could have come up with, but I had no other choice. Hopefully what happened this morning would help in convincing her.
なに？桜井さんって桜井さん？
他にどこの桜井がいるんだよ。
There's the head dev for Smash Bros.
でも
さ、あいつめちゃくちゃ嫉妬深いんだよ。俺が他の女と話してるだけですごい怒る。
そうなの？
そう。だからお前とかもろにヤバい。朝だって俺が引き離さなかったらどうなってたか想像するのも恐ろしいよ。 ちょっと思い出してみてくれ。あの時のあいつの目、人を殺せる目だったろ。
Kasumi gave me a panicked look, as if the very thought of what I told her sent a chill down her spine. I wasn't lying, though. I could totally see Kasumi going on I could totally see Sakurai going on an actual rampage. Trying to do my best impression of a troubled boyfriend, I went on.
お前が隣に住んでるって知られた時とか大変だった。その上壁に穴が開いてるとかまでバレたらどうなるかわからない。だから塞いだんだけど。なんか話しがたくてな。そういうわけなんだけど、納得したか？
でも全然そんな感じなかったじゃない。だいたい子供じゃないんだからなんで内緒にする必要が。
Well, you see, I'm trying to cover up the fact that I've just declared war on the, magical Third Reich.
あいつテレ屋なんだよ。
That also doesn't hold up to any degree of scrutiny.
あと、なんていうか秘密の共有、そういうのがこう絆を深くするんだとかなんとか。お前そういうのわかるか？
いや、私だったら次の日に速攻で言いふらしてもあると思うけど、嬉しいし。ってそんなことはどうでもよくて、それ本当なの？
No, we're not. We're fighting Nazi wizards.
嘘じゃない。
You are, though.
なんで間が空くのよ。
恥ずかしくてな。
I got shivers from what I had just said. It might have been a random excuse I came up with in the heat of the moment, but was that really something I wanted her to think? No! It isn't! You're an idiot! But, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. No! Stop! This is called the sunk cost fallacy, ladies and gentlemen, and will get you in all sorts of trouble. If I lost my cool and ended up feeding her a huge jumble of fact and fiction, she might begin to see the holes in my story. If I were to play my cards right, I'd have to...
そういうことだけど、質問はあるか
This would be my chance to alleviate her suspicions and explain anything that would sound odd to her.
じゃあさ、いつから付き合ってたの？
Well, about since I found out she was a Nazi wizard.
3日前だけど、そうなるまでの準備期間も入れると1週間くらいか。
それだと桜井さんが転校してきてすぐじゃない。どんな一目惚れなのよ。っていうか、どっちから告白したのよ。
どっちからともなく。
Wait, how does that work? Like, I may not be an expert in these matters, but I'm pretty sure somebody has to confess to somebody.
何それ？
だからなんとなくっていうか、あいつはほら美人だろ。俺としてもそりゃ多少は気になるわけで。まあそのチラチラ見てたら目が合うことが多くてな。それでなんとなくっていうか。
Have I expressed my, lack of respect for Ren's ability to be a functional human being yet? Because I would like to express my lack of, faith in his ability to be a functional human being at this point.
話すようになって好きになってしまったと。
Like, I recognize it makes it very complicated for our ability to go fight Nazi wizards, but I almost want Kasumi to see through our bullshit. Because it's, like, real fucking blatant.
好きになってしまったと。メタメタのベタベタに惚れていじゃらぶってしまったと。
いや、そんなことはないぞ。
はっきりしなさい。
なんで怒るんだよ。
Why do you fucking think?
それは同じ女としてそういう態度はいかんのじゃないかと思うのですよ。
Uh-huh.
だいたいあんた付き合ってるならなんで今一人なのよ。一緒に登下校とか基本じゃない。
そりゃまあちょっと喧嘩したし。
朝のこと？
そうかな、多分。
ちゃんとフォローした？
Man, now she's concerned for us. Come on, then. You're a jackass.
いや。
うわぁ、こいつダメだよ。恋愛方向音痴だよ。
See, this I can agree with. You know, earlier in the story, I was, like, expressing concern whenever I agreed with Kasumi, but I think I'm gonna start agreeing with Kasumi more often than Ren for at least the rest of this conversation, because Ren is a dumbass, and Kasumi is A functional human being for once in her life.
お前に言われたくねえよ。
私のことはどうでもいいでしょ。
I mean, a little bit it is.
だから。
I was the one who came up with this nonsensical story, but I was about fed up with discussing it any further at this point.
とにかく、そういうわけでもういいだろう。フォローしろって言うなら今からするし、お前は早く家に帰れ。
フォローって桜井さんの家に行くの？
いや、電話かな。
Do you have her number?
あのね、ダメだよ。そういうのは直接会ってやらないと意味ない。顔が見えないと通じないことって多いんだからね。それに明日土曜だよ。3日前からって言うんなら付き合い始めて最初の週末になるんだよ。そういうのを大事にしないとダメだってば。
そうは言うがな。
I actually had no idea where Sakurai lived. All I had was her text address. If this kept up, Kasumi was going to figure out I was full of shit.
まあ、わかった。わかったからお前はもう帰れ。言っただろ？あいつやきもちすごいんだよ。世話焼いてくれるのは嬉しいけど、今が大事な時期だって言うなら、俺たちの問題は俺たちで片付けるよ。それが筋だろ。
None of that was actually a lie. That was how I truly felt. Oh my god, you're an idiot. You're so big of an idiot, you're actually believing your own bullshit.
まあ確かにそうだよね。じゃあ整理するけど、レイは桜井さんと付き合ってて、彼女がやきもち焼きだから信頼関係が盤石になるまで私を含めた他の女の子とは距離を置きたいと。
そう。
分かった。じゃあ好きって言って。
は？
Someone kill me, please. Ooh, I volunteer! I volunteer!
桜井さんが好きだから付き合ってんでしょ。だったら今ここでその気持ちを口にして。
I mean, quote dating unquote. We're quote dating unquote Sakurai because we want to murder her. It is because we want to murder her, you see.
なんで？
なんででもそれ聞いたら諦める。
何を？
ああもううっさいなこの男。あんた鈍いふりばっかりか。
That is an excellent question, and I believe we are in the middle of an experiment to find out empirically.
ほらほらほら、桜井さんが好きなんでしょ。だったら言えるはずだよね。さあ恥ずかしがらず大きな声で世界の中心的に叫ぶ愛を、ラブを、リビド。
I mean, you're the one who said in for a penny, in for a pound, dumbass. This is not on me. This is not my fault.
最後も違うだろ
違わないもん。年頃の男の子と女の子だもん。やること他にないんだもん。
Your mind is in the gutter, child. Urge to punch rising. Oh, come on, you brought this on yourself.
あれ、いいのかな。そんなことで彼女を大事にできるのかな。お姉さんは心配だな。
勝手に言ってろ。
ああもうそうやってすぐ逃げる。
But it looked like I succeeded in tricking her for the time being. Though it led to an odd misunderstanding, Sakurai would be out of the picture once I accomplished my goal. Kasumi labeling me a good-for-nothing boyfriend was a small price to pay for that. She continued yammering on about some nonsense next to me, but at least she seemed to have been convinced. All I had left to do was wait for the right time to tell her I was going to Sakurai's place. If I did that, she'd probably head home, no questions asked. Plus, I could stay at school all weekend without her getting suspicious. Well, it was sickening to consider, but I tell her I made up with Sakurai and the two of us went on a date. So...
ねえねえ、ところでやっぱり二人の時はゲイとか呼び捨てにしちゃってたりするんすか、旦那。
Seeing her act this silly for the first time in ages made me feel somewhat relieved. I'd also forgotten the ache in my neck, not to mention my urge to hurt others had receded. One could say I finally had my first moment of genuine repose in quite a while. And due to that, I was too late in noticing a certain presence passing me by in the warm sunset, exuding a positively frigid aura. Is it Sakurai? It's totally Sakurai, isn't it?
どうして？あなたもなかなか苦労人ですね、サラトゥストラ。
Hey, it's Speedane, let's kill him. Oh wait, no, never mind. He's like the only guy who only has one name. Never mind, don't kill him, he's my favorite. That voice.
どうしたの急に。
By the time I turned around, the presence was gone, but I could have sworn it was him. My heart rate intensified, along with my breathing. The calm-like surface of my heart had been upset by a violent ripple in the blink of an eye. This was bad, really bad. At this rate...
かすみ。
何よ。
悪いけど、お前今からすぐ帰れ。
いや、そりゃ帰るけど。
俺は用事ができた。
用事って、桜井さんに会いに行くの？
ああ、ちょっとな。あいつ怖いから早く機嫌取らないとやばいことになる。だからお前は。
うん、わかったよ。さすがに私もそこまでは野暮じゃないし。じゃあ帰るね。レン、ちゃんと仲良くしないとダメだよ。
わかってる。
ほんとかな？ぶっきらぼうだしな。でも、あれだね。そんなに真剣になるなんて、本当に桜井さんのことが好きなんだね。なんか、ちょっと羨ましいな。何言ってんだろう、私。じゃあ、レン！
You don't seem to understand the situation. The situation is if you don't leave right now, you might get murdered. And not even by us.
ああ、気をつけて帰れよ。
And with that, Kasumi left. It was Saturday afternoon with plenty of people out and about, so I figured the coast would be clear. She'd be in no trouble at this rate. Alright, what next? The guy we ran into earlier must have been the same one from the intercom. Spine, if I wasn't mistaken. Frankly put, he seemed like the kind of person I'd not want to associate with. The kind that observed others from afar with a sneer on their lips, and could only view human emotions as a series of chemical reactions. Are you talking about me? I have a name, you know. The sort that found enjoyment in the suffering of others. Rusalka could be placed somewhere along that spectrum as well, but she was the kind to charge headfirst in the maelstrom of it all. By contrast, Spine would remain ever the spectator, sneering, manipulating, and observing from the sidelines. Wow, you're inferring a lot about his personality from, like, 4 sentences over the intercom. Like a spider tormenting the prey caught in its web. Wait, what had gotten into me? I was starting to sound like someone who knew him well, so I promptly put an end to that train of thought. Oh! Okay, actually, that might not have been reading into the intercom thing. That might be, like, information bleeding over from Mercurius. Because obviously Mercurius has every reason to know what Spine's personality is like. Okay. So instead of that being then, like, going, like, weird psychoanalysis, that's probably just another instance of, like, Mercurius's knowledge and then sort of blurring. Because that's happened a couple times before. Like, he randomly knows things that he's not supposed to. Like when he had the premonition that he wasn't supposed to die there. I think that was Mercurius as well. Anyway, what would be my next course of action? Would I follow him, or forget about it and head back to school? At any rate, ignoring the problem wouldn't get me closer to a resolution. That much was obvious. I had no idea exactly what Spine had in mind, but it was no coincidence that his path crossed mine. Whether or not I would fight, that was another question. I'd go after him and figure out what he was really after. My actions may have been either the result of recklessness stemming from a troubled mind, or belligerence brought on by the effects of my Ananurb. Whatever the cause may have been, I ended up making a critical oversight, one that, at the time, I failed to take notice of. I mean, is the critical oversight that, like, Spine can just kill you, like, whenever the hell he wants? So you should probably not go after him, because then he will notice that you exist. I mean, he knows you exist, obviously, he just said hi, but, you know what I mean. After searching for several hours, I was ultimately unable to find him. Exhausted, I ended up plopping myself down on the ground. What motive drove him to make contact with me? I might have learned a thing or two had I been able to tail him, but my efforts ended in complete failure, my only reward an absurd anticlimax. And perhaps a bit of relief as well. Had I caught up to and fought him, I might not have been alive and breathing right now. I had yet to master formation, and couldn't even use activation to my heart's content. Realistically speaking, engaging these freaks in battle in my current state would be entirely too reckless. With that in mind, I realized I most likely should have headed back to school. This way, all I ended up doing was waste precious time that could have been spent on training. Also notable is, Den earlier said that, like, sort of the major mental block he had to overcome was that he was unable to channel his aggression properly. Like, that was his hypothesis as to why he wasn't being successful. So that's sort of fairly obvious foreshadowing for him to, like, get into a fight with somebody and then master formation and whatever. Activation and formation, right? Because Like, as soon as he gets into a fight with a Nazi wizard, presumably his aggression will come to the surface and he will be able to, do guillotine things. So I'd be surprised if his training was successful. And that would also be sort of anticlimactic, right? Just from a narrative pacing standpoint. Like, having the protagonist train for, a week, and then he gets, slightly better at the thing that he's trying to get better at. Like, that isn't... no one does that, right, in their stories. Like, you have the protagonist train, and then it's either all the training's off-screen, or they train and it's like a failure, and then they do all their learning in the heat of battle, or whatever. And I'm suspecting that this work is going to be of the latter variety. Common rational thought left me in my most critical moment, even though I considered myself to be more level-headed than that. I truly was pathetic. At this point, I had no right to mock Kasumi for her stupidity when I wasn't any better myself. And as a result...
何してるの、藤井君?
Oh, hello. I failed to notice Himuro staring at me with a quizzical expression. Hell, not even her voice registered in my brain.
こんばんは。こんなところに座り込んでどうかしたの?
And she had company, too.
いや、別に。今日は不意打ちの出会いが多い日だなと。
ん？不意打ち？最近の藤井君はちょっと感じ悪いの。だから深く考えちゃダメだよ、リザ。そうなの？でもよく見たら顔色が悪いわね。大丈夫？
ええ、それは一応。
とりあえず地面に座り込むとか不良っぽくて良くないと思うな。しかも制服着たままで。
I don't know how to break this to you, Himuro, but I'm pretty sure we're a delinquent.
うちの学校のイメージが悪くなるのはもうすぐ卒業するものとしてちょっと嫌。
すみません。
Himuro's tone sounded more biting than usual. Maybe she was still holding a grudge for yesterday. She wasn't exactly wrong, though, so I promptly dusted off my pants. Luckily, the scar on my neck no longer ached. The more peculiar thing, however, was the fact it vanished the moment those two showed up. That's weird. That is, I don't know what to make of that, but there is definitely something to be made of that. Like... Man, I don't even have, a hypothesis I'm confident into any... Or, I'm even... attached to. Yeah, I can't make heads or tails of that. It definitely means something, obviously. It could be something as simple as just, the scar conveniently will just disappear around anyone who isn't, I don't know, directly associated with the Nazi wizards, just for the purposes of convenience. But I suspect that that's not the case, given that he had to wear makeup on it to school. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out at some point, but...
どうしたの？変な顔して。
Also, how does he know that it's gone? It's a scar around his neck. You can't see your own neck. That's not how eyes work.
いえ、特に何も。それより二人は何してるんです？物騒でしょ。女の人だけで夜出歩くなんて。神父さんはどうしたんですか？
ああ、それはちょっとね。あの人は今、家出中。
は？
だから、どっか行っちゃった。昔から、ちょっといじめるとすぐに行方をくらますの。
Scampers like a wounded rabbit, scampers like a power-hungry Nazi wizard. Same difference, really.
だいたいリザが。私は何もしてないわよ。まったくあの人ったら大きな体して本当に打たれ弱いんだから。せめてレアがもう少し優しくしてあげればよかったのに。私のせいなの？じゃあ私のせいなの？
つまり二人のせいってわけですね。
If I had to make an educated guess, he probably committed some kind of blunder again. I hadn't seen Father Triva since then, but he, bluntly put, seemed all over the place. Must not have been easy living with these two.
そこで君はなんで同情しているような顔をするの？言っておくけど、あの人はかなり悪党だよ。
悪党？
だからなんでそこで笑うの？
だってあの神父さんでしょ？悪党とか言われても。
I couldn't help but chuckle at the claim.
まあ、伊達に神父をやっているわけじゃないから、外面はいいけどね。
シスターも否定はしないんですか？
藤井君は人を見る目がない。
She sounded sort of exasperated when she said that.
あの人と接するときはね、油断しちゃダメ。私が知ってる中で多分一番たちが悪い。例えるなら羊の皮をかぶった恐竜。
I don't think that's usually how the idiom goes.
しかもティラノザウルス。
むしろサタン。
Don't think Satan is a dinosaur. Actually, I think in most popular culture depictions, he's more of a goat thing. And last time I checked, goats were not dinosaurs.
かつ自覚がない。
Harsh words. I was starting to genuinely feel sorry for the guy.
とかそういう人だけど、あれはあれでいいところもあるからこうして探しているわけ。
そうですか。
私は別にどうでもいいけど。
Rude.
あら、そうなの？私が放っておけば戻ってくるって言った時、無言でずっと睨んできたのは誰だったかしら？
誰だろうね、それ。私知らないよ。
Don't you though?
ねえ、聞いてくれないかしら、藤井くん。この子ったら私が教会で待ってなさいって何か言っても黙ってついてこようとするのよ。ちょっとファザコン気味だと思わない？
思わないよね。だってそんなことないんだから。
そこで同意を求められても。
I mean, it seemed almost like these two were boasting about the happy little family quarrel they just had. How I felt about it would be difficult to explain. I was glad they were all living in peace and quiet, but...
あのさ、先輩。
何？
それからシスターも。
どうかした？
なんていうかな。さっきも言ったけど、物騒だから教会に戻りなよ。神父さんのことなら俺が探しておくから。
Excellent, and then you can fight to the death.
私たちだと物騒で、藤井君なら大丈夫だっていう根拠は何？
Well, you see, I have this magic guillotine in my arm.
だって俺男だし。
そういうレディーファーストはあまり嬉しくないな。ちょっとバカにされてる気になっちゃうわよ。
藤井君の悪いとこだね。まあいいところでもあるけど、別に犬じゃないんだから、そんなに心配しなくても自分のことくらい何度でもなるよ。
Yeah, Himuro, you tell him.
じゃあ神父さんも自分のことくらい何とかするでしょう。
それは揚げ足取り、別問題。
I beg to differ. It felt like we've been having a lot of these pointless arguments lately.
とにかく藤井君があの人を探す必要はないよ。っていうか探しちゃダメ。
Because if we find him, we'll get into a fight and we'll kill each other. It'll be great.
なんでですか？
Because he's a Nazi wizard.
それは
Hesitation. That was a first for Himuro. The details were beyond me, but she didn't exactly seem to be in favor of me looking for Father Trifa. With that said, though, I honestly didn't feel like looking for him either. It was just an excuse to make them go home. The decapitation murders may have come to a close, but there was another kind of danger still lurking around, such as Father Trifa. Besides, I just bumped into that guy earlier. I couldn't leave two pretty ladies wander around town with him on the loose.
レアは多分自分で神父様を探したいのよ。でもまあ藤井君の言うこともわかるし、ここは男の人の顔を立てた方が良さそうかな。
リザ？
いやね、そんな怖い顔しないでよ。大丈夫、大丈夫だから。
What? I had a hard time following what they were talking about.
それで。
ああ、教会に帰ってくれってことでしょ。わかりました。じゃあ申し訳ないけど神父様のことをお願いね。
Fight, fight, fight!
はい。
ほら、レア、藤井君にお礼を言わないと。
What did I do to earn that glare of hers? As I stood there, completely perplexed.
藤井君はバカで。
I mean, congratulations. You have correctly discerned our true nature.
君みたいな子はきっと早死にする。
Probably. Yes, you're right. Once Himuro had finished reciting that malediction of a sentence, she turned to leave. What the hell? That was quite the hateful exit.
ごめんなさいね。あの子、ちょっとズケズケと物を言うから。
I'm gonna be really interested to find out, like, what Himuro knows, how much Himuro knows, and, like, what side she's on. Because I'm having a lot of difficulty trusting her. Despite the fact that she gave us free sandwiches. Like, And you have to do quite a bit to earn my distrust after giving me free sandwiches.
気を悪くしたのなら謝るわ。
あ、いえ、そもそも俺が出過ぎたことを言ったからだし。
そう。
Sister Lisa produced a troubled smile. Truth be told, though, Himuro had been rather moody as of late. I honestly didn't take her for the kind to get that angry.
多分ね、藤井君のことを心配しているのよ。私と話す時もよくあなたのことを話題にするし。だからいい友達としてこれからも仲良くしてほしいと私は。
リザ、変なこと言ってないで早く帰ろう。藤井君なんか変態に襲われちゃえばいいんだ。
Please no?
可愛い顔してるからきっとバラチックな目に遭う。ざまあ見ろと私は思う。
That's kind of fucked up. That's kind of like really fucked up.
あのな。
それは私もちょっと見てみたいかも。
That's also fucked up. Not her, too.
とにかく俺のことはいいですから。
はいはい、わかりました。じゃあ藤井君、私たちは帰るけど。
After saying that, Sister Lisa took a step toward me and whispered into my ear.
神父様を探すなら気をつけてね。あの人、夜になると周りに危ないのが寄ってくるから。
What? What the hell? What was that supposed
あ
to?
と、あなた自身もね。
Having uttered that peculiar warning, Sister Lisa turned around.
君もユサ君も死ななきゃ治らないバカ。
Wait, who's Yusa again?
そんなんじゃいつか本当に。
I don't actually know who Yusa is. I'm like trying to think. Is it Shido? Have I ever heard his last name? I have no idea. In contrast to Lisa, who had left without ever glancing back, Himino kept complaining about something or another while repeatedly shooting looks in my direction. I had no clue how I was supposed to deal with this. Exactly what could have made her so irritated? A variety of thoughts raced through my mind as I saw them off, but no definite answer came. Except for one thing.
やれやれ。あなたも嫌われてしまったようですね。
Wow, we're so good at this game! We're like, we're gonna look for Father Trifa, and he just shows up! Wow! We have skills beyond belief. Right, exactly. Wait, what?
しかし、気にする必要はありませんよ。彼女のあれは、一種の愛情表現というやつでしょうし。
That is some, optimistic thinking. Hold on, was this for real?
おや、失礼。驚かせてしまいましたか。
神父さん？
I turned around to find the priest in question standing behind me, his sudden appearance leaving me at a complete loss. Dramatic music is playing. I feel like he's gonna try and kill us. What the heck? What is up with today? No matter what anyone said, this was way too many chance encounters in a day.
どうされました、藤井さん。そんなあっけに取られたような顔をして。
ああ、それは別に。
I could feel my heart rate intensify. The priest, who had a carefree and relaxed air about him before, now seemed oddly... how should I put it?
しかし、テレジアも困った子ですね。もう少し淑女として隙のない成長をしてほしかったものですが。まあ、とはいえ、あれはあれで魅力的でもありますね。あなたに好意を抱いているのが見え見えであるあたり、実になんというか、微笑ましい。私としては、それを喜ぶべきなのでしょう。もしかしたら、嘆くべきなのかもしれませんが、娘の成長を喜ばぬ父などいないでしょうし。藤井さん、あなたにとっても、テレジアは大事な存在であるのでしょう？
俺は。
I found myself unconsciously taking a step back. I didn't know why, but I felt almost like there was a wall of ice towering before me, blocking my path. The ache in my neck too had returned with a vengeance, like I was being viciously strangled. Breathing itself soon became a toil.
もしあなたがテレジアを大事に思っていてくださるのでしたら、私はとても嬉しいですよ。これこそ運命めいている。
Yeah, give me like 3 routes to get on that.
あなたは実際、お世辞抜きで素晴らしい若者だ。思いやりがあり、痛みに強く、それがゆえに心も強い。 満点を差し上げてもいい。私は神に感謝しています。あなた。
Ignoring the fact that he seemed to be grossly over-exaggerating things, nothing the priest said was particularly odd. In fact, I should have been happy with it, receiving his blessings and all. Having said that, though, the chills and sweat across my entire body would simply not cease, nor did the ache in my neck grow any less intense. This man was like a father to Himuro, as well as a friend and coworker to Sister Lisa, so I knew I shouldn't have been thinking this about him, but something within me, something that wasn't my logical mind, began to sound its warning trumpets. I was scared of this priest.
これはどうやらいささか時期尚早でしたかな?
Little bit, yes. Please don't kill us. We are not ready to try and be killed yet. Like, come back in like a week or so. Then you can try and kill us. Now is, today is no good.
失礼しました、藤井さん。いきなり現れて先ほどのようなことを言われては、あなたが驚くのも無理はない。困らせてしまったようで、謝罪しましょう。
As Father Trifa bowed his head, the oppressive feeling that had seized my entire being up until now vanished like it was never there to begin with. My breathing and heart rate evened out as well, while the ache in my neck began to swiftly fade. Was that just my imagination?
顔色が優れませんね。大丈夫ですか？
いや、それは本当に大丈夫だから。
The priest produced a smile befitting a man of God. The inexplicable dread I'd felt a moment before is now gone without a trace. I had to calm down, take deep breaths. I was simply panicking because of everything that had happened during the day. There was no way this guy could have been one of them.
ごめん、なんでもないよ。ちょっと驚いたのは確かだけど。なんか今日、いろんな人に偶然会うことが多くてさ、どう対処していいかとっさにわからなくなっただけだから。
そうですか。なるほど。偶然いろんな人に会いましたか。私にもたまにそういう日がありますよ。いえ、過去にあったと言うべきですか。
What's that supposed to mean?
予期せぬ遭遇というものは、どうしてなかなか難儀なものです。何せ未知でありますから、いい悪いの判断もつきづらい。
未知？
ええ、未知は恐ろしい。希望であるかもしれないし、絶望かもしれない。加え、それが到来したとき、やはり未知であるがゆえに正確な対処も難しい。であるなら、賢明な者はこう思うかもしれませんね。すべて基地で構わないと。まあ、雑談はこれくらいにいたしましょう。あなたはリザとテレジアに私を探すよう頼まれたのでしょう？
それは一応。
でしたら恥をさらしてしまいましたね。私はどうにもあの二人に嫌われていますから、よくいじめられるのです。とはいえ、いい年をして女性から逃げる男というのもまた、これはこれでおつなものなのかもしれませんが。
I merely nodded in silent agreement. Figured I'd let the wannabe lady killer dream. Though it may have been through sheer coincidence, I managed to fulfill my promise to Himuro and Sister Lisa. All I had left to do was ask him to return to the church.
ええ、言わずともわかりますよ。教会には戻りましょう。
Again, with like the people like randomly knowing what we're thinking. Like, is mind reading just like a base level ability of this setting, or are we just that predictable?
ただですね。よろしければその前に一つ忠告をしてもよいでしょうか。
忠告？
Figuring he was going to go for another sermon or something, I gave the priest a puzzled look, which he returned with a broad smile.
そう構えずとも。年長者からの人生訓みたいなものですよ。大したことではありませんし、あなたの主義に反することなら、ざれ言と流してもらって構わない。いかがですか？
I don't feel like this is a good idea.
別にいいけど。
Bewildered, I gave him a nod. Following a brief phrase of gratitude, Father Trifa went on. And the contents of his speech sounded awfully familiar to me somehow.
まず、人は生きていれば、時に予期せぬものと遭遇します。例えば今日のあなたのように。ですが、 世に偶然というものなどないのですよ。すべて初めからそうなるように、それ以外にはなれぬようにできているのです。世界とは。
So, was he claiming to be a determinist? I wasn't entirely familiar with the teachings of Christianity, but something felt off about the things he said. Noticing my reaction, Father Trifa made a smile.
面食らっているようですが、私は何もオカルトなことを言っているわけではありませんよ。ただ、この世に起きることは、すべて何かしらの意味があるということです。あなたは今日、いろんな人に会ったと言った。その一つ一つを振り返り、検証することで、こう考えることはできませんかね。
Oh yeah,
第
he's...
一のものがなければ、第二、第三もなかったと。
Oh yeah, that's funny, he's right. Because, like, the first unexpected encounter was with Kasumi, right? Oh no, was with Sakurai, right? And then because of that, we bumped into Kasumi. And because of that, we bumped into... because of that, like, Spine came and said hi. So we went looking for him, which was the only reason we were out at night to bump into Lisa and Himuro. And the only reason we then decided to, like, get roped into looking for Trifa was because we bumped into Lisa and Himuro. So really, this is all Sakurai's fault. That's the conclusion I can derive.
原因と結果、因果率の話です。そして時間を戻すことが不可能である以上、あの時ああしておけばよかった。などという考えは的外れでしかない。
Yeah, except you exist in a visual novel, so I can actually do that. I can actually push the F6 key on my keyboard, and it will take me back to the previous choice.
つまり、人の人生とは、
Every action stemmed not from one's own choices, but had already been decided upon. In which case...
選択肢があるように見せかけた一本道。
そう。よくわかっていらっしゃる。
Shido said the exact same thing that day. Father Trifa's lips formed a pleased smile following my answer.
そしてそうである以上、言ったように偶然はあり得ず、また無意味な事象も存在しない。私はあなたと会ったことで、こういう話ができましたし、リザやテレジアはそのきっかけを与えてくれた。
Okay, time for one of my patented conspiracy theories. So here's my theory. The reason why our protagonist seems to suffer from deja vu so often is because that the various routes and like decisions that you can make over the course of the game are not actually mutually independent. They are actually chronologically consecutive, and it's like subsequent iterations of the universe. Like, my theory, and I am fully prepared for this to not be substantiated in any sort of capacity, is that, like, Mephistopheles' plan to defeat causality won't work the first time around. It'll fail, and we'll go back to the beginning because of time loops, or whatever, right? And then there will be, like, another route. And then by the end of the fourth route, Mephistopheles will be in a position where he actually can escape causality, or maybe at the end of the third, I don't know. But I don't know, maybe that's like digging way too deep. Maybe I'm thinking like way too hard about it. And like, looking for connections and straws where there aren't any.
それ以前にも、ここに至る何かが当然のようにあったでしょうが、その一つ一つ、どれも無意味ではありませんよ。必ず何かしらの意味がある。故にどんなものであれ、予期せぬ事態を楽観などしないように。ネジが外れてしまった時計は必然的に止まります。と、私の話はこんなところなのですが。
I suddenly reflected on Father Trifa's words. He was right. Everything happened for a reason. Coincidence was an illusion. There was no way the two of us crossing paths here. There was no way the two of us crossed paths here through sheer chance. In which case... Hey, we're getting a phone call. The abrupt jingle on my phone's ringtone interrupted my thoughts.
いえ、どうぞお構いなく。 私の話は終わりましたし、教会へ帰ります。
あ、そう。じゃあ神父さん。
ええ、ではごきげんよう。近いうちにまた会いたいものですね。
Father Trifa gave me a faint smile before leaving, his black cassock melting into the night in a matter of seconds. My phone continued to ring as I saw him off. Who could it be? I mean, there's really two plausible answers, right? 2.5. It's like Kasumi or Sakurai, right? Like, it could be Shiro, which would be super weird. I guess it could be Spine, which would also be fairly weird. So we have like 3. We have like 1, 1, a half. That's like 3. I wasn't exactly swimming in close friends. Aside from Shiro, I figured it could potentially be Himuro, and I flipped open my phone, immediately spotting the headache-inducing phrase of Venus of Love as it flashed on screen. I felt anxiety welling up within me, making me not want to pick up. The dread of potentially having made another terrible mistake was difficult to stave off. I continued listening to the ringtone, its refrain a messenger of terror.
もしもし。
Wait, did she get kidnapped by Spine? Spine, don't go kidnapping people, that's super rude. The phone's display claimed I was connected, but I didn't hear a thing. What the hell? It couldn't have been a prank call either. I mean, what would have been the point just without hiding her number?
Kasumi. Oi.
Hadn't there been enough phone-related things as of late? Even I might get sick of situations like this if they kept cropping up. She should have done something more elaborate if she wanted to surprise me. This was just lazy, plain and simple, and not the kind of thing you'd think of dragging to a punchline. I really wish she would grow up and give those jokes a What was that? I could hear the sickening sound of something crumpling through the speakers. What the hell was that sound? He kept going, still as unsettling as before, now accompanied by the audible sounds of strained wheezing.
Oi!
Enough! This stopped being funny ages ago. It felt almost like she was... The harmony of pained wheezing and the sound of meat being mashed. I found it difficult not to imagine what could have been going on in the other end of the line. I began to calmly think, trying to figure out who could be calling from Kasumi's phone. What in the hell was that bastard doing to her? I gripped my phone so hard it cracked, while the scar on my neck began to ache as pure, undulated anger washed over my body. That bastard. Did he kidnap Kasumi after we parted ways?
Spineだな.
The static-like wheezing came to an abrupt halt the moment I pronounced the name. At the same time, I heard a voice that gripped my heart like a gauntlet of steel. It sounded too feeble to be a death scream, and too much like a curse to be an appeal. An eroding wail I would take with me to the grave. Well, so much for not getting Kasumi involved. And then came a booming laugh. Spine, you're a dick.
なかなか可愛らしい彼女ですね。食ってしまいたくなりますよ。後ろが気になっては戦えないのではと思いましてね。ですから私があなたの不安要素を排除して差し上げます。いいえ、礼には及びません。おもちゃはもっと、もっともっともっともっと、この街中にあるのですから。
おい。
Even I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. My rage, after skyrocketing past a certain point, must have dulled my emotions. All I had for him was a short, simple declaration.
そこを動くな。殺しに行く。
And on that, exciting and violent line, we will leave off for the day, and we will go kill Spine tomorrow. Exciting stuff. Doodles.